Good afternoon, worlds, and welcome to our latest podcast, which is all about finding out what the best AI companion is as we travel this digital world of loads of AI improvements, but also robotics and those coming together. And I hope we do an episode on that one day. But today we're just going to focus on the AI component of it. So above me are my wonderful Allegiant colleagues, even the marvelous Mike Devitt, who is more than just the filler in the sandwich, and my favorite middleman, Martin Robson, who is our Market Harborough professional. And say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
Yeah,
That
okay.
was good, wasn't it?
Moving on.
Everyone's gone now.
Yeah. Well, at the end of this, we're going to come back. We're going to circle back around. We're going to look at what we've looked at with our different AI tools. We're going to take you through them. We're going to evaluate them as we go. We've all done slightly different things. And then at the end, we're going to produce this wonderful grid, and we're going to put a number in each of these little boxes in the grid, and you will find out who will be the winner. Oh, there you go.
There's the
Lovely.
grid.
Who will be the winner once we've totted up all those scores and see who's the winner in the AI companion race. Okay, without further ado, Martin, just before we get going, can you kick us off by telling us why on earth we're doing this? No?
No?
Right then.
I have to. I know it's live, and so you can't do this, but I've got a 5-second delay. I hear Jill, and then 5 seconds later, I hear Jill again,
Oh.
and me, and everyone. So
Oh,
I don't know if that's happening to anybody else, but that's why I had such a...
No.
No?
no, I'm not getting that at all, Martin.
No.
Okay.
No, you're coming through. We will live with it if you can. Just answer when the second one of me asks the question then.
Yeah, the problem is I get the question, and then there's 5 seconds later, I've got the question again, and I don't know.
Oh, it's like you're in Australia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, he's gone. It's great,
So
isn't
right
it?
now, I hear what I just asked you 10 seconds ago.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Maybe try
Right, we'll
logging
get-
out, log out, and then rejoin us.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It's
That's all right.
unusable for me
In
at
the
moment.
meantime,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mike will take over that question for you. Mike, why are we doing this, and what are the tools we've chosen to use?
Okay. So we have. Why are we doing it? So we are all in the design and SEO community, and even people outside of the communities. Businesses on a daily basis are using all these AI tools, and I think that many people don't even realize that each company has got AI tools, because when Chat GPT came along, it was just heralded as this behemoth of a program that you could use to create all kinds of content. And it kind of feels like the other companies have been catching up. So what we decided and what we thought was, well, if we gave ChatGPT what is now Google Gemini and Microsoft Copilot, so those are the 3 AI tools that we're going to be evaluating today. If we put them up against each other in a battle, and let's just bring Martin back in. There he is. If we put them up against each other in a battle, then we would all decide on which one we thought gave the best answer to the query that we gave it. So that with each of these tools, you can go from the very complex, asking it to do some coding for you, to just explaining something to you. And this falls off the back of our episode last week, where if you go back to our episode last week and it's a really good episode talking about AI. We were talking about believing in the results sometimes in what the search engines are telling you, and not always taking everything as being true, because when you type some of these things into any of the search engines, sometimes the search engines produce these snippets of information which people think are like gospel, and they're not. So what Martin also said last week was that he was talking to someone of a different generation, a much younger generation, that just used ChatGPT for search. So here's our evaluation today. So what we were going to do was Martin was going to kick us off. Martin, I don't know if you're in a position and
I'm okay.
You're back in the room. So I'm going to, when you're ready, I'll hand you back to Jill first, because I think Jill's going to say something.
Brilliant. Yeah. So like Mike said, we've chosen Copilot, Gemini, and Chat some letters. And
You're supposed to be reversing that, Jill.
I know I was. I nearly had it. Could you just share my screen just for 2 seconds, Mike?
Your screen, Jill, yeah?
Yes, lovely. Yeah, so I just want to just quickly flick through them so you see what they look like if you haven't been before. So this is Copilot, and this is Gemini. Whoops, it just looks very similar. And this is your chat. Whoops, that's got a thing on it. GPT, look, they've even got the letters up. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, Jill's got the GPT 4.0. So you're using the professional version of ChatGPT. So that's going to be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's all I wanted. I just wanted people to have in their mind while Martin's going through his tests, so that they can imagine him doing it. All right, Martin, tell us about your tests.
Cool. Thanks very much. And I've also learned, by the way, if anybody's doing a live broadcast and you've got the YouTube channel open, then that's what causes the problem. So don't broadcast and listen at the same time. There we go. Tech professional here. So all of these AI companions are used by different people to do different things, obviously. And we all talk about, the prompt is the most important thing. So I've used exactly the same prompt across all three tools. And I've used things that are how I see businesses currently using AI companions. So I'm noticing more and more people are, instead of going, what is that? They're going, oh yeah, I'm using it. Mostly they're using it for writing. So I thought I'd start off with a fairly standard thing, which is to say to each of them, hey, compare Chat GPT, Copilot, and Gemini, and asked each of the AI companions to do exactly that. So that was my first test. Nice, simple writing one. Do you want to know how it went, Jill, or do you want to come back?
Yeah, let's hear about how it went while we remember what the question is, because we're, a couple of us in the room are a bit ancient.
Yeah. So we were looking at comparing ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini, and I asked each of these pieces of software, please compare ChatGPT, Gemini, and Copilot. So I asked them to do what you asked me to do. They're companions after all. So the result, Copilot gave me a bullet point summary of what was features and good and bad about each of the three pieces of software, Copilot, Gemini, and ChatGPT, which was useful. It was very slightly biased, bizarrely, towards, can you guess, Copilot, but only slightly, to be fair to it. Gemini also gave me a bullet points. What I liked about Gemini versus Copilot was that they were the same ones. So, for example, Gemini gave me strengths and weaknesses for all three, whereas Copilot gave me elements of all three, but it didn't give me strengths for all three and weaknesses for all three. So it wasn't consistent in its analysis. Chat GPT was consistent in its analysis, but it picked the wrong Copilot. Can you believe there's more than one? So if there's anyone, programmers or whatnot in the room, there's something called GitHub where you put lots of code, and that's also got something called Copilot, and ChatGPT went there. So I had to go back and say, I want the Microsoft one, please, the general business one. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. And ChatGPT's analysis was much more in depth than the other two. However, with my business hat on, looking for a quick comparison, I wasn't really looking for that amount of depth. So in summary, Copilot, nice depth. Gemini, nice depth. Chat GPT, Jill, slightly too much depth. And yeah, I'll come back to the scores at the end because that's what you wanted me to do. But that's what I found on that.
All right, Mike, give us your question that you asked and what was the results of it.
So I'm going to share my screen at this point. So the question was that I asked each of the individual search or engines is tell me about Allegiant WebWise. Okay, so let's start off and let me just share. So I asked Copilot. So for those of you on the podcast, I'm just sharing my screen at this moment in time, and we're looking at the Copilot result of me asking. And then all I did is use the same question for each of the engines. Tell me about Allegiant WebWise. So Copilot has hit it on the head, saying, certainly, Allegiant WebWise is a podcast that delves into the intricacies of running a web design business, hosted by Mike, Jill, and Martin. Then gives a little bit more information, and then learn more, actually linking out from Copilot to our website, allegiantweb.com, which I thought was excellent. So Copilot, really, really good start. Really, really pleased with the fact that Copilot's picked that up. So let's go to Gemini. So I asked again, tell me about Allegiant WebWise, and Gemini was a little bit more standoffish. And Allegiant WebWise appears to be a podcast geared towards web design and development business, and it's possibly run by agency directors Jill and Martin. So I've been deleted completely, which was obviously, did a lot for my ego. And then obviously Gemini went off and had a look and said, well, there's an episode titled Building a Website Live on Air, which if you've not watched it, episode 7, you need to watch that because Jill and Martin are absolutely amazing on that. And it points to being a podcast, and it's found it on podops.com. So Google's gone away, found an actual podops. And so Martin's very impressed with that, with his sharing, as I can see. And then it says, unfortunately, I couldn't find anything else. So Copilot and Gemini have done very, very well in our initial test to find out. Now, how's Chat GPT got on? Well, in every single test that I've ever done with this, I've always really liked Chat GPT's responses. Let's see what it comes up with. Allegiant Air, often referred to simply as an Allegiant, is an American low-cost airline that primarily caters to leisure travelers. The airline is known for offering affordable flights to a wide range of destinations, mainly focusing on small regional airports and popular vacation spots. And this is the really interesting thing, because this version of Chat GPT, which is Chat GPT 4, would have been using information that was available on the internet, because basically it's not live prior to us starting our Allegiant WebWise podcast. So I thought that was just very, very interesting. And obviously from ChatGPT's perspective, that is a big minus, bearing in mind that we are working in live data. So you have to remember with certainly with this version of ChatGPT, and actually, Jill, it'd be interesting if we did the same test on the 4.0, which you've got, which is just see if it actually comes up with a live response. So I don't know if you can do that while I'm gassing away here, and we can share perhaps the result.
Can you tell me the question exactly again?
The question is, tell me about Allegiant WebWise. Okay. So if you just do that, that would be really interesting, so that we can compare the older version, the ChatGPT 4 version, with the latest version. So are you ready to share that?
Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to turn my screen off. I'm going to bring you on. And
I love this, Jill. It's like, Jill, can you host this? And can you also give an example? And can you also do a new thing while we're also live?
and
I
actually
I
type
actually
into
just
the
put it
right one.
I just put it in the wrong one, didn't I? That was yeah, well, that's what happens.
So tell
Tell
me
me
about
about
Allegiant WebWise, and let's see. So this gives us actually a really good um,
okay,
comparison.
live on air.
You
Here
couldn't
it
get any more
comes.
live than this, could you?
This is great.
All right, here it comes.
It's having a bit of a thing. Oh,
Oh,
there we
yeah, here we
go.
go.
Look
Yeah,
at
look
this.
at that.
I
It's
don't like
got
this. It's mentioning Mike.
it's got
I
us
know.
all
How very
in.
dare it.
It's
Look at
got a
this.
lot of topics. Oh my life, that is beautiful. Be still my beating heart. That is gorgeous. Look at that. So
So I
that
think so.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. What I was going to say was actually what we ought to be actually testing here is that this is a the professional version or the latest version, the 4.0 version, which is really fresh out, is
Mm.
absolutely nailed it, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's streets ahead of the other two as well, isn't it? I mean, look at that detail about the topics covered and stuff like that. And yeah, and then
It's
it's
also
got
referenced
links.
sources,
Yeah,
which
it's got
you know,
links to Apple Podcasts and our YouTube channel and Podtail. I mean, yeah, no, that's really nice actually.
It
I'm happy
is.
with that.
What I
Yeah.
did notice, just to finish off on this section, is about Gemini and ChatGPT, is that they both have disclaimers in their footer saying that they can make mistakes and that people should fact check.
Yeah.
Copilot just has links to like policies and terms of use, so that's quite interesting. That it's it's not doing exactly the same, and I would imagine in those terms of use um, that that there's probably again you ought to fact check, but it's not
All
actually
right.
actually on the screen for you.
So I'm
very,
gonna
very quickly though, just
I'm
for
just
the
oh
businesses,
sorry.
etc. I think it's really important just to notice it's exactly the same question with three very different answers, one of which was completely wrong. So you hear about AI, you hear about the wrong things. It does a lot of stuff right, but that's a real good example of how
Yeah.
you have to be careful when you're using this stuff.
So one on that fact check thing, what I just wanted to show you, this is Gemini I'm in, and they've got this little button down here that says double check the response. So you can click on this and it'll go away and it'll try and double check it, all right? And then it highlights these different parts of the thing. And basically what it's saying is that if it's got a green, then it can give you a link to it, and if it's got a red or an orange or whatever, it's got no relevant content. It can't, it basically made it up more or less. And then if it's not got any color, yeah, that's more made up stuff because it's just filler bits and bobs. So just wanted to highlight that I noticed was a thing with Gemini, but it didn't actually really help that much,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah. So if you're on the pod, if you're listening to this, Jill's just turned on this checking the results, which is at the bottom of Gemini, and it is highlighted in green and in orange to potential sections relating to the results that it's found or not found.
Brilliant. That's great. Okay, so I'm just aware that time is marching on, and you guys have done a superb job of highlighting some differences there. So I'm not going to go into detail with what I did, but let me just tell you the results of what I did. So I'd basically asked it about, given what we were doing last week, I'd asked about let me see, what did I ask it? It was about using AI in search engine optimization to tell me something about that. And basically, I had a very similar experience to you guys. The Copilot was a little bit reasonably in depth with some headings and stuff like that. Gemini was absolutely pants. It was about a paragraph that basically said, Google are wonderful, and here's a link to us, and nothing else. Chat GPT as you would expect, because it's the beautiful O version that I use, it gave me a really in-depth analysis of it, which was actually really nice. So from my point of view, I just thought that the Chat GPT was streets ahead. But whether that's just because it's the paid version or not, that's again. So maybe we need to actually, in a future episode, do some drilling down into the difference between the paid versions and the free versions to see if you actually get what you pay for. And obviously, this initial look at it, there is some difference, and it might be worth it. Okay,
That's a really good point, isn't it, Jill? So if anybody doesn't know, it's around about 20 a month, be that dollars or pounds, in order to use the paid versions, give or take. But that's the sort of investment you're looking at.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the all-important numbers then, shall we? Are we bringing up our
Yes,
score?
we are. We are. I was just preparing it. Here's one I made earlier.
Yep. Let's do it.
And so what I've done is I've put in my scores, and then I've got yours ready for you to add. So here's my. So then we can tot up the score as we go. So I've put in. So bearing in mind, I'm going to call this ChatGPT 4.0, as has just done a fantastic job on finding our actual Allegiant WebWise podcast, which is brilliant. So, Jill, what would you give ChatGPT?
I'm going to stick with my 10 for that.
Yep. Okay. Yep. And Gemini?
I'm going to give it a measly 2, to be honest.
Didn't enjoy it at all. Please.
Copilot, I'm going to give it a generous 7.
7. Okay. Yep. That's fine. And that's fine. And Martin, ChatGPT?
So just very quickly, Mike, in the 2 tests that I did, the first one was the same as the one, I've already covered it, which is basically what we've all done, which is basically a search question, isn't it? Can you tell me about what is this?
Yeah.
Well, the second test I gave, it was a computational one. I wanted it to work out something.
Yeah.
And the scores are quite different between the 2. So I can give you a composite score if you like.
An average would be good. Yes.
An average would be good. Are we not going to go and see my computational one? Huh.
So I actually think I did a really interesting, well, it was interesting to me thing, and which requires computations. I can't say that word either. And I think that actually that might be quite a useful thing to do in a future episode, is to look at how these AIs handle complex computational things. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Martin. You give us your average, and I think we should revisit that.
Okay. So across the 2 different things that I did, I scored 12
out of 10.
6 out of 10.
That's going well, isn't it?
Yeah. For Chat GPT.
Yeah, that's done. Yeah.
For Gemini, it would be 7.5.
Oh, 7.5. Gemini did better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. And if we'd seen the second example, you'd see why. But never mind. And Copilot scored 2.5.
Oh.
Oh, 2.5. Very, very low.
Okay.
Yeah. And anybody watching this who wants to know exactly why, come back next week and I'll show you exactly why it didn't do so well.
Okay, let's do that next week. Then we'll talk about the computational stuff next week. That sounds really good.
That sounds great. So the scores are on the doors, as they say, and we have a clear winner by the looks of it, which is my favorite, Chat GPT. Now, what will be interesting is I think Martin and I will get together, and I think we're going to run his computes, I don't know, whatever's, through my paid version, and let's see if he is willing to up his score for it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that'd be a really, really good idea, to look at the paid one as well. Yeah.
All righty, let's do that. So All right. Anything you'd like to say? I mean, in second place is Copilot, and I would agree with that too. And Gemini, I just think it's got a long way to go before it catches up. And to be honest, I think Google have really. I mean, I just saw today that they one of their court cases has been granted leave to go ahead about their anti-competitiveness stuff. So I think they've got their hands full with trying to prove that they're not taking over the world. So maybe that's why it's not so good. But hopefully they'll pull their socks up and bring that back up to scratch. Any final words, Mike, on what the scores came out at?
Oh, I think it's quite interesting because when you look at the even the interface and then how it then produces results, I've done some programmable questions as well, and had really different results from the three of them. But I think what's really interesting here is that it's all about the thoroughness, isn't it? It's all about taking these pieces of information, because when people are writing or asking AI to write copy content, we're always saying in the SEO industry, Google's now knows if it's AI generated. You got to humanize it. You got to bring it, make it as good as you can. I've noticed, particularly with Chat GPT, that that side of it has improved a lot. Except with every single one of them, they all use this word elevate, and that drives me insane when doing like headlines and things like that. So my thoughts on their efficiency is that I think they all bring something different to the table, and depending on the search that you or the query the prompt that you put in, you will get different results. And sometimes Gemini will win, sometimes Copilot will win, sometimes ChatGPT will win.
Absolutely. Different results depending on what you put in. That's a really good point. Martin, what are your final thoughts?
It kind of aligned to that in that, as a business, if you're using these tools, depending what you're using it for, will depend what's the best tool. So an overall composite score is kind of interesting, but in a way meaningless as well, because you've got to figure out, well, what am I trying to use it for? So far in all the businesses that I'm speaking to, the vast majority that are using one of these tools, and that is increasing week by week, are all for search or writing things, rewrite this, present this, etc. But I'm pretty sure that more and more and more, they're going to start using it for actually, how do I solve this problem? How do I solve this task? And that's where we see the real power of these tools. And I think that's something that we should be focusing on, how to really make a difference in your business using these things. So yeah, come back next week, see what we've got.
That's brilliant. Thank you both very much. That's been an absolute whirlwind, and it has been a whirlwind. Like Martin said, we could have dug into any of these ones and stuck with them and really done in depth. But this was a really quick run through to see our favorites. And hopefully, I think we're going to come back to these time and time again, because we'll see this over the next year. These are going to be running up against each other. They're going to be like one will pull ahead, the other will pull ahead. And I think we're going to see some great changes. So I think we'll probably come back to these examples. I also think that we're going to mature as the way we write prompts will get better and better. In the same way, when COVID hit, we all got really, really good at writing search terms in Google. We are going to get really, really good at writing prompts for AI companions. So watch this space, and thank you for joining us again, and we look forward to seeing you next week. I think we're going to do another live one. Is that right, Mike?
We're going live again next week. Yes, we are.
Nice. Join us live or follow up on the recording afterwards, either on YouTube or one of the other podcast areas that we live on. All right, take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.